r/ask Reddit. What was one of the largest mistakes in history? The British government was concerned about the number of venomous cobra snakes in Delhi. The government therefore offered a bounty for every dead cobra. Initially this was a successful strategy as large numbers of snakes were killed for the reward. Eventually, however, enterprising people began to breed cobras for the income. When the government became aware of this, the reward program was scrapped, causing the cobra breeders to set the now worthless snakes free. As a result, the wild cobra population further increased, ending with a cobra population larger than what they started with. Killing cats to prevent the spread of the Black Plague. They killed the cats, so the rats had less of them to worry about. You get the picture. Didn't they kill cats because of their association with witches? I've always read it being something the Catholics set in motion because of cats being seen as tools of the devil or some such stuff. Yep, Jews didn't see the cats as evil, but as the helpful pets they are and weren't affected as badly by the plague. This made Christians hate Jews even more. Blockbuster once had the opportunity to buy out Netflix for only $9 million. They declined the offer, only to ironically go bankrupt because of Netflix, which is now worth billions. Could you imagine the disaster that Netflix would be today if Blockbuster took it over? Netflix also pushed digital streaming. It's a good chance we would all be stuck with cable, with a few shitty streaming services and no innovative programming. Why do you think this is a more likely outcome than a similar service emerging just with a different name? It very well could have. I just think that those in charge of Netflix understand their medium and their audience. I don't think Blockbusters, or many other similar setups, have that understanding. Yahoo rejecting the acquisitions of both Facebook and Google. I think we should all be thankful of that. Yahoo would waste them if they did. Excite refused to buy Google search engine for $750,000. I've heard a story and I want it to be true. When Google was first starting up, they at one point had a massage therapist on staff and the job didn't pay much, but they paid her in stock. She doesn't work as a massage therapist anymore. Facebook made a similar deal with a guy who painted their first office. NASA accidentally taping over the moon landing. In fact, there are no known original recordings of the event. Let's say that again. They taped over the moon landing. World War I, which was one of the worst wars in history, led to arguably the worst war in history and was started because countries couldn't talk to each other in a rational way. World War I is just a series of stupid. First, you have let's run straight at the enemy and everyone died. Then, you have let's run straight at the enemy behind a very slow curtain of artillery barrage, and everyone still died. Finally someone said let's not just run straight at the enemy, and some people actually survive, although a lot still died. In his podcast on the series, Dan Carlin makes the not unreasonable point that it's only stupid in hindsight. At the time there were simply no tactics capable of winning such a modern, industrialized war, as no one had ever fought one. No one could even fully conceive of the slaughter they were about to encounter. The tactics employed were the best they could come up with because, with the technology available to both sides and the disposition of forces, plus the sheer scale of men involved, there just wasn't a way to avoid mass casualties. Not handing the ball to beast mode. Also not running 3 straight times and kicking a 35-yard field goal to effectively end the game. Russia selling the US Alaska thinking it was a useless wasteland. They actually mainly sold it because they knew the Brits would take it over sooner or later. To them it was just let's just earn some quick cash by selling this wasteland rather than having those Brits steal that wasteland from us. Pretty much the same story as the Louisiana Purchase. The French couldn't hold it anyways, so they sold it rather than just lose it. An elderly man throws away a Euro Millions lottery ticket loss in 2010. $181 million. Reminds me of that guy who now spends every weekend in a Scottish garbage dump looking for the computer he threw away because it has millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin on it. Creating the universe. Widely regarded as a bad move. There have been at least a few armies destroy themselves because they thought the other half of their own force were the enemy. I'm sure all of those are up there. Or when some groups Native Americans were first given guns for warfare against the British during the French and Indian War, they would use the same tactics as with bows. Surround the enemy and fire from the trees. One problem. Bullets go further than arrows and hit your buddies on the other side of the enemy if you miss. Destruction of the Library of Alexandria. Also on the list, that time I sold a copy of Library of Alexandria for like $350 right before its massive temporary price spiked to $1,000. I once sold a beta Black Lotus for $20, but in my defense, all of my friends said, "Holy shit, you got $20 for a single magic card?" The early days. The dudes who changed the itinerary of Archduke Ferdinand but forgot to tell the drivers. We all know how that one turned out. Germany trying to maintain a two-front, not including other Axis powers, war, twice. Letting Brits draw international borders. Pickett's charge at the Battle of Gettysburg in the lesser-known frontal assault at the Battle of Franklin by John Bell Hood. Pickett's charge was the climatic assault at the Gettysburg when General Lee instructed General Longstreet to march exhausted Confederate soldiers across a 4-mile field under constant artillery fire to assault the center of the Union lines. By the time the Confederates reached the stone walls the Union troops were hiding behind, they'd lost something like 30% of their strength. The few groups that made it through the wall were massacred. The entire 1,862 class of Ole Miss formed a company known as the University Greys. All but one were casualties. The attack discredited Lee among his staff, with Longstreet leaving for Georgia, and seriously damaged the Army of Northern Virginia. At Franklin, an even bigger frontal assault was planned by Confederate John Bell Hood. The Union artillery loaded triple canister, basically 3 times the normal load of 8mm steel balls, and fire into the attacking Confederates. Witnesses said that you would hear the cannons retort and then the shattering of thousands of Confederate bones as hundreds of men broke into pieces. One Confederate drummer boy, aged 12, tried to stop a Union cannon by shoving a fence post into it. He reached the cannon as it fired and disappeared in a pink mist. Word to the wise: frontal assault don't typically work. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.